58 men. That's the number Chinese social media attached to one governor's name. Men she's accused of pulling into her bed, then controlling through their careers. Sleep with her, or lose your promotion. Her name is Zhong Yang. She ran an entire Chinese province. And when they arrested her in April 2023, she was still sitting in the governor's chair. Different continent, same exact game we just watched. Except this time, the one pulling the strings wasn't a man. It was her. Before she was accused of owning the careers of 58 men, Zhong Yang first had to build a career of her own, in a system that was never built for her. Picture a communist youth league office in Guiyang, late 1990s. Fluorescent lights, gray filing cabinets. A young woman from Jiangxi province. No family name that opens doors. No patron waiting in the wings. Still at her desk at 9 at night, because the men in that office got to leave at 6. Zhong Yang wasn't poor, but she wasn't powerful. And in a system built almost entirely by men, for men, that difference was the whole game. So she learned the only rule that mattered. One mistake, one whiff of scandal, and a woman in this system was finished before she started. Everyone else got to be human. She had to be flawless. County head, then party secretary in Xifeng, then the Guiyang Economic and Technological Development Zone, then Huaxi District, then deputy governor of Qianan. Every posting bigger than the last. And on paper, every single one of them spotless. Here's the thing about spotless though, it's a performance, and performances end. Chinese commentators looking back at her rise later used a phrase for how they believed she actually pulled it off. A phrase that stuck because it was cruel, and because a lot of people found it believable. They said she spent this half of her career trading beauty for power, climbing under the patronage of male superiors in a system where that patronage was often the only ladder a woman had. It's the story Chinese social media told itself about how a woman with no connections could rise that fast, that far, inside a system built to keep her out. But by March 2021, nobody was calling Zhong Yang's rise a fluke anymore. She was named governor and deputy party secretary of Qianan and Miao Autonomous Prefecture, making her one of the most powerful women in the entire province. Roads, hospitals, schools, development contracts for millions of people. All of it now running through one office, her office. And according to the same Chinese commentary that traced her rise, that's exactly where her story flipped. If the first half of her career was, allegedly, about trading beauty for power, the second half, critics claimed, became about trading power for something else entirely. Here's what a Chinese court actually proved. In hard numbers, no rumor attached. Between 2010 and 2021, across 4 different postings, Zhong Yang took bribes. Not once. Not from one source. Systematically, contract by contract, approval by approval, for over a decade. Picture it. A construction boss wants a highway contract in Qianan, the kind of road that's supposed to connect farming villages to markets, kids to schools, patients to a hospital that might save their life. He doesn't send an email. He requests a dinner. Private room, bottles of baijiu on a lazy Susan, nobody writing anything down. Somewhere between the second toast and the fourth, a number gets mentioned. Nobody calls it a bribe. They call it a thank you gift. The kind of phrase that lets everyone at the table pretend this is just how business gets done here. She says yes. The contract moves. And nobody outside that room ever finds out how much of that highway money never touched asphalt at all. That happened in one form or another for over a decade. The total the court confirmed. Nearly 60 million yuan, roughly $8.2 million, funneled to a provincial official whose file, on paper, read like a case study in unremarkable, until that number attached itself to her name. But here's where it stops being ordinary corruption and starts being something else. Greed with no ceiling. Investigators found that roughly 29 million yuan of what she demanded, nearly half the total on the books, was solicited or promised, but never actually collected. She asked for more than the system could pay her. She wasn't just taking what people offered anymore. She was pricing them, and some of them couldn't afford what she was asking. And that exact appetite for money, for leverage, for control over anyone who needed something from her is what Chinese social media eventually attached to a second, far more explosive story. Not about money, about men. Because usually, this kind of story runs the other way. A powerful man, a string of mistresses, a system of yes men who look away and get promoted for it. This time, the man wasn't in charge. She was. And the rumor that grew around her spread faster and did more damage than any court filing ever could. The claim, which spread fast across Chinese platforms and was picked up by outlets like Yuan, Republic World, and NewsX, that Zhong Yang used her authority over promotions and transfers to obtain compliance from 58 male subordinates. Some of it men trading access for advancement, allegedly the same game she'd played from the other side 20 years earlier. Some of it was described very differently. Men who felt they couldn't refuse a woman who controlled whether they got promoted, transferred, or quietly buried for the rest of their careers. This was the story that would eventually outrun the case itself. Here's the part that matters, though. None of that, the number 58, the specifics of coercion, appears anywhere in her official court verdict. It isn't in the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection's public notice either. What the CCDI notice actually says when it announces her expulsion from the party and from public office in September 2024 is one vague line, that she violated the discipline of personal life. 4 words. That's the entire official record. It's a euphemism the party has used for decades to gesture at something without ever having to prove it in public. So, an entire viral narrative, 58 men, careers as currency, power as coercion, got built almost entirely on top of one deliberately vague sentence in a press release. Maybe some of it is true. Maybe all of it is. Maybe none of it is. Nobody outside a closed party investigation actually knows. What we do know is Chinese social media had a sentence and an appetite, and filled in every blank themselves. And while all of this was happening, while investigators built the financial case, while her name spread across Chinese platforms, Zhong Yang was still governor, still walking into that office every morning, still sitting across the table from officials and businessmen, who, by then, had almost certainly heard exactly what people were saying about her. She wasn't quietly removed and investigated after the fact. She was arrested in April 2023, while she was still behind the desk. Here's the strangest part of this entire case. Before Zhong Yang was ever sentenced, before a single verdict existed, the Chinese state put her in front of a camera. January 2024. Studio lights. A still recently serving official reduced to 1 chair, 1 microphone, part of a Guizhou provincial series titled With Zero Irony, Show No Mercy. On camera, Zhong Yang described a family tradition. Every New Year, her parents made her the same dish. Greens boiled with white tofu. Plain. Cheap. A quiet symbol, they told her, of what it means to stay clean in public office. She cried, on camera, in front of a national audience, and admitted she didn't take it to heart. Sit with what's actually happening in that scene. A government that hadn't convicted her yet, hadn't confirmed a bribery total, hadn't touched the personal life allegations at all, put her on television anyway, crying about a bowl of tofu. As a lesson for every official watching, she became a morality tale before she became a legal case. The state didn't wait for the court. It didn't need to. Her tears were useful either way. And underneath the viral number, underneath the documentary tears, there's a quieter kind of damage almost nobody talks about. Shenan isn't Shanghai. It isn't Beijing. It's a mostly rural, ethnically mixed prefecture, Buyei and Miao communities, mountain villages, exactly the kind of place where a highway contract or a development fund determines whether a farmer's kid gets to school on time, whether a clinic gets built, whether a village gets connected to the rest of the province at all. Every yuan of that 60 million didn't vanish into nothing. It came out of contracts and funds that were supposed to build something real, for people with the least ability to ever find out where their money went. And if even part of the subordinate allegations are true, there's a second set of victims nobody has attached a number to. Men whose careers, whose silence, whose compliance were allegedly the price of survival inside a system where the person controlling their future also controlled the terms. Not one of them has a name in any public document. Not one of them has been asked, on the record, for their side. The court gave the money a number. It never gave the men. July 29, 2024. Zunyi Intermediate People's Court. No cameras this time. No tears for an audience. No tofu. No music. Just a verdict, read into the record. 13 years in prison. A fine of 1 million yuan. Every illicit gain confiscated. 5 months later, on September 1st, the party made it official. Expelled from the Communist Party. Expelled from public office. Twice disgraced, in party language, Shuangkai. On paper, that looks like accountability. A provincial governor caught, tried, sentenced, expelled. Case closed. And if you think a female governor turning promotion into leverage is as strange as power gets, remember, this isn't the first executive who used position the exact way powerful men have for centuries, and got taken down the exact way powerful men usually aren't. It won't be the last one we cover either. See you next time on Silk Street.